Hamas and Putin represent different threats, but they share this in common. They both want to completely annihilate a neighboring democracy, completely annihilate it. Hamas' stated purpose for existing is the destruction of the state of Israel and the murder of Jewish people.
They murdered and raped civilians, they executed the elderly at bus stops, and they massacred young people at a festival. They may, it emerged last night, have even beheaded babies.
They found decapitated babies and toddlers.
Israel kills enough of these sons of bitches that this is not a problem against us. Whenever anyone suggests that Israel is willfully killing civilians, that is the most ignorant, bigoted, anti-Semitic bullshit ever said. There cannot be a ceasefire. Anyone who calls for a ceasefire is a terrorist sympathizer under these circumstances.
I never really thought that I would see and have confirmed pictures of terrorists beheading children. I never thought I'd ever... Anyway,
Do you care about the babies that were beheaded?
No,
the babies?
they were never beheaded. That was a made-up story.
How do you
It's
know?
not true. It's show me the pictures now.
So what about
Show
19?
me the pictures. You're a lying full of. You're full of.
They bombed hospitals, schools, United Nations facilities, Red Crescent facilities, mosques, churches, civilian homes, evacuee convoys. They're literally bombing everything but Hamas inside of Gaza. And that's because their real effort is to force the Palestinian people out of Gaza and take over that land once and for all. Zelensky is using the Nazi Azov thugs in Ukraine to silence freedom-loving Ukrainians. Joe Biden in the United States, his cronies are prepping the CIA, the FBI, Antifa, the IRS, and now Ministry of Truth to attack freedom-loving Americans.
Demand not one more bullet, not one more tank, not one more piece of artillery, not one more dollar, not one more penny be sent to the Nazis in Ukraine. Demand peace. Thank you all for being here. Continue this energy.
How we doing, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning back into the dive. It's good to be back with all of you today. We got a little bit of a new setup going. How's the look? What do we think about it? What do we think? Sound okay? We good? We good. Okay. Thank you all for tuning in. We got a lot to talk about today. A lot to talk about. Some crazy stuff going on in the world. The Pope is allowing transgender... I just saw this news before I went live. The Pope is allowing transgenders to get baptized and become godparents. Don't you guys think it's crazy? It's like, you know, not to get into all of this, but like, okay, so, the Zionist leaders are blowing up kids in hospitals. The Catholic leader is saying that transgenders can become godparents and, can get baptized. You've got, all the evangelical Christian leaders that are also going along with the bombing of children. You've got the Dalai Lama, who's literally a pedophile. And then who do you have left? You have the Russian Orthodox Church that's left. That's why we stand with them. But anyways, I hope you guys like this new setup we got cooking. I really like it, actually. I think it looks really nice. I think the only thing is this, I'm going to get the Joe Rogan mic because I think it'll look better. It's all black. And then maybe the table. I'm thinking the table maybe should be like black too or something. Maybe we get a new table. But hey, look, thank you all for tuning in. If you'd like to support my work, as always, before we get into the news, since all my sponsors dropped me, and since we are not on YouTube and they demonetized me, then they banned me, then my sponsors dropped me because we're not on YouTube anymore. If you'd like to support my work, you can do so quite easily by the simplest thing is to just go on my Twitter account. You can subscribe to my Twitter Premium for $3, X Premium for $3. That little subscribe button up there. If you're on Locals or Rumble, rather, you can join by clicking the join button right here. Any amount of your choosing, you can support me per month, per year, per whatever. And you get access to my premium content through that as well. And you also support the show. Obviously, the main thing is supporting the show. I don't put out like a ton of premium content. I try to keep it all open and available to as many people as possible. But yeah, so I'm liking this new setup. I think it looks pretty damn good. I'm not gonna lie. I had my fiance, help me set it up, and I know it's not really that big of a deal. It's not that big of a change, but I think it looks pretty good. Okay. So, anyways, gosh, where should we even begin tonight? My Alex Jones. Oh yeah, I do have to address this. So yeah, my Alex Jones interview is up. You guys can find it on Infowars.com. I also posted the full interview on my Twitter. That was really good. I got a lot of really positive comments from that. And it was a fantastic conversation. And the producer, reached out and said, you did great. You blew Alex's mind a little bit, I think, but you did great. And I think the whole, I'm an American Stalinist thing maybe blew his mind a little bit. But I threw back the idea. I said, look, I mentioned on the show that my good friend and obviously my colleague in all of this business, Haz Al-Din of the Infrared Show, I said it'd be great if you guys could get him on the show. And then I started thinking, I'm like, why don't we just do an in-person podcast, sit down, me, Alex, Haz, in, maybe another person, but I think that's really enough, in Austin, Texas. So I don't have a confirmed date for that or anything. Like, it's not that far along, but they said that'd be great. So I think that's going to be really great. I'm actually going to be going to Michigan to hang out with Haz soon. My fiance and I are going. We're going to go see Michigan a little bit. I'm actually named after Jackson, Michigan. So I know Jackson's not really the best town in Michigan. I've been there. They have the Jackson State Penitentiary, the men's prison, I think, and not a whole lot else going for it. It's supposedly, there's a lot of debate about this. It's supposedly the home of the Coney Island hot dog. There's a lot of debate because people in Coney Island, New York, they'll be like, no, it's from here. And then the Michiganders will be like, I can't do a Michigander accent very well, but they don't have that much of an accent, actually. They just say certain words kind of funny. Like my dad says orange. I don't know. I don't even know if that's an accent. I think that might just be his weird little way he says it. But anyway, so I'm going to Michigan. I'm going to Arizona soon for the holidays, for Thanksgiving. And, so yesterday I was supposed to be on, this is the last bit of news before we get into the real news. Yesterday I was supposed to be on Patrick Bet-David's podcast. It was going to be myself, Norman Finkelstein, and we were going to be debating. So Norman and I were going to be debating Rabbi Shmuley Butler, whatever that guy's name is, Butt-Teach. I forget how to say his name. I never learned how to say his name. He's the guy that looks like the little green leprechaun. He debated Muhammad Hijab yesterday. I might be butchering all these names. But, we were supposed to debate yesterday, And then Rabbi Shmuley Butt-Teach said, he said, this is how he talks, by the way. This is, I don't know why he talks. My flight. He's like, my flight in Israel is staying too long. So, like he looks up he's always screaming and he looks up and he's got that like shrill voice and he's always looking up in the sky. I'm like, who are you looking to? Because I know you don't believe that Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior. I know you don't believe that. So who are you looking to up there, But anyways, apparently his flight was, he's staying in Israel for a bit longer to do the bidding of the Zionists. And so he could not make it. So the show was canceled. Patrick's team did let me know, however, that they would still like to have me on. It's just going to be later on, December, January, whenever we can fit it into the schedule. So that's the news there. Bad news regarding the show. It did not happen. I really would have enjoyed sitting next to Norman Finkelstein and having conversation with him, let alone against Rabbi Shmuley Butt-Teach and another Zionist, but that didn't happen. So anyways, looks like we got a good showing right now on X and Rumble. Let's get into the news. He's looking at Moloch. He's staring at his 40-foot tall owl statue that they do human effigy burnings in front of. All right, so look, I think we should start off. Here actually. So there was some really interesting news that took place this week. So there was a massive Zionist rally, march, whatever you want to call it, pro-Zionist demonstration that took place in Washington, D.C. this past week. Now, if you read Zionist Twitter, they claimed that 290,000 Zionists came out upon their own free will to protest for Israel. Now, the only problem with that is a lot of them were paid. A lot of them were bussed in and paid to attend the rally. A lot of them were probably forced to go. I'd imagine a lot of those were like some of the thousands of congressional and Senate staffers that reside within the hills of Washington, D.C. Lobbyists, for example, that were basically forced by their work to go. But also, the thing is there weren't 290,000 people there. There were a lot. I'm not going to deny that. There were a lot, as you can see here in this picture, but it's like 50,000, maybe 40,000, 50,000. I'll give them 50,000. I don't think it was 290,000. But anyways, I just thought it was funny to start off on this part of the story because like everyone on Zionist Twitter was posting this and they kept saying, yeah, they were paid $250 to go. A lot of these people, that was the going rate to attend. I would not attend for $250. I would not attend. I saw this, I won't get into that. But anyways, all the Zionists on Twitter were like, and there was no violence at our rally, and there was no defacing of public property, and there was no, they were like, they kept saying no violence, no violence, no fight. Bitch, your whole protest was about calling for more violence against Palestinian children. What do you mean there was no violence? There was one speaker at the event. His name is Van Jones. Now, Van Jones is a longtime media pundit. He got famous by being like, a guy that pushed for like green energy and like renewable sustainable policies and laws in inner city neighborhoods of America. He's a black guy. And I've actually met Van. He was nice enough when I met him. It's like anyone who goes that far in politics. He was like, he held some climate change policy under the Obama administration. Anyone who goes that far in politics is going to be a charismatic individual, likely. The only exception to that, I guess, is probably like Rabbi Shmuley Butler. That guy sucks. But, anyways, he was a nice guy. And he was at this rally. And I was really surprised because what's so funny about this Van Jones guy? He made his claim to fame about like fighting for climate change, right? But before he was doing that, he identified as a Maoist, first red flag. He identified as a Maoist living in, I believe, San Francisco or in the Oakland area, something like that. And he would speak at these Maoist demonstrations around the Bay Area in the United States. And I always thought it was so funny because it's like, okay, so you claim to be a Maoist, and then you're like working for the Obama administration, and then you're working for CNN, MSNBC, doing all their punditry and shilling for Joe Biden. Now he's at the Zionist March in D.C. speaking, and he was very daring. He was very brave, you might even say, because he said what we need to have is not more violence. What we need to have is a ceasefire. He dedicated about 30 seconds at the end of his speech at this Zionist March for Violence about calling for a ceasefire. And you know what happened? When he was doing that part of his speech, talking about the need for a ceasefire, everyone in the crowd started chanting, "No ceasefire, no ceasefire, no ceasefire." You can't even call for a ceasefire at this march, but the people who were posting about the march online were saying, well, there was no violence at our march. Well, yeah, but the whole march was, 50,000 people gathered to demand more violence upon like babies and incubators in Gaza, one of the poorest places on the face of the earth. So don't give me that no violence BS, because no one there, except for Van Jones, I guess, was even calling for a ceasefire. So I thought that was very hypocritical. There's other hypocritical stories I want to get into before we touch on the subject matter, the main subject matter of our stream tonight, which is another Hamas hospital lie. And that is this right here. Now, this video was shared by the Israeli Defense Forces this week. Since our last stream, the Israeli Defense Forces shared this photo, which is of Israeli soldiers inside of a hospital in Israel near babies in these aren't incubator. I don't know if these are preemie babies or what, but these are like newborns, right? So you have armed Israeli soldiers. I mean, their mags are out, but they're still armed. Armed Israeli soldiers inside of a hospital in Israel. They initially posted this claiming that they were in a hospital in Gaza, by the way, that they were, doing like humanitarian work in a hospital in Gaza. Then it obviously very quickly came out based upon the text on the wall and the individuals working that this was actually an Israeli hospital. But they posted this claiming they were at a Gaza hospital. Now, what I think is so hypocritical about this post is, they say, oh, we're doing the Lord's work. We're, warriors checking in on our nation's future. We're checking in on the babies of our nation and wishing them a happy and successful and healthy life, whatever they do over there. And I looked at this photo and I'm like, the real hypocrisy of this photo is not the fact that they claimed they were doing humanitarian work in a hospital in Gaza. As funny as that is, not really funny, as twisted as that is, the real hypocritical nature of this photo is if there was a photo of a Gaza hospital with Hamas militants armed to the teeth standing over babies, that photo would be plastered on the mainstream news, on the New York Times, Washington Post, Haaretz, Jerusalem Post 24/7 until this war ended, and then for another several months after that, because they would say, oh my God, look, armed Hamas combatants, armed Hamas terrorists are standing over the babies. That's why we're blowing up the babies in the incubators. Don't you understand? It all makes sense now. Everything we've done is justified. So they can do this. They can stand over babies in a hospital, preemie babies in a hospital, armed to the teeth, guns, rifles, whatever. They can do this. And that's completely fine. But if Hamas did it, they'd say, well, it's de facto a legitimate military target. If they saw one Hamas fighter, if they saw one civilian with carrying around a gun inside of a hospital, they'd say, legitimate target. Legitimate target. If they saw a civilian, not even a Hamas fighter, if they saw a civilian with like a Glock walking around a hospital, they'd say legitimate target. Now, that's actually not a legitimate target according to international law. That does not make a hospital a legitimate target, in case anyone needed, clarification on that. But they get to walk around hospitals and it's not a legitimate target. Okay, you see, if you flip the script, if you take their warped or perception and worldview, it just doesn't apply to themselves ever. And here's another example of that. This is a photo that's been widely shared of two young women. I don't want to assume their genders. Two young Israelis inside of an Israeli, potentially Tel Aviv mall, sporting some new glasses, trying on some glasses, and they're both armed to the teeth with actually loaded guns, loaded rifles, mags inserted, and they're walking around the hospital with these guns. Now, what is the defense from Israelis? Because this was actually posted by Hananya Naftali, who's Israel's digital spokesperson that was selected for that position by Prime Minister Netanyahu. So what is the Israeli defense of walking around in malls with guns, civilians doing this? I mean, they're not in military garb. No. The defense is they say, well, of course our young women have to walk around with armed rifles in hospitals because on October 7th, it was our 9/11 and Hamas terrorists came across the border and butchered young women left and right. So yes, of course they have to be worried. Of course they have to be armed to the teeth at all times. Of course. So I look at that and I say, well, if you take your warped logic, one more time, take their logic and say, they claim that there's a Hamas fighter in the Jabalia refugee camp or the Al-Shifa hospital or in any of the United Nations schools that they've blown up or the Indonesian hospital or the Red Crescent facilities or the UN facility, you name it. If there was one Hamas fighter, not even armed, if there was one Hamas fighter or an armed civilian in any of those buildings or centers, they'd blow it to smithereens. We're getting to the point now where there's going to be video of a 7-year-old child, Palestinian child, running around like a school in Gaza with a Nerf gun, with like the foam bullets, like a Nerf gun. And then they're going to get blown up and Israel's going to come out and they're going to say, well, we thought he was a terrorist because he had the gun and now we see it's a Nerf gun, but you understand it's a legitimate target because it looks like a gun. Like that's where that's literally the level of war criminality, crimes against humanity that we're very quickly approaching now. But again, take their own logic. You have soldiers walking around babies in a hospital, in a children's hospital. You have young women walking around armed to the teeth with fully loaded rifles in a mall. If you take Israel's logic, which I'm not saying is just or respecting international law, those would become legitimate military targets for Hezbollah, for Hamas, for whoever, right? So I guess I would just say to the Israelis, to the Zionists, be careful what you wish for. Now, our last bit of hypocritical news before we get into the hospital story is this one right here. This one might just take the... I think the soldier standing over the babies honestly takes the cake, but this one's pretty bad too. So as you know, doctors inside of hospitals in Gaza are now being forced to perform surgeries in the pitch black with nothing but a phone flashlight to guide their surgeons. And this is because Israel has cut off the electricity. Okay, they've cut off electricity, communications, internet, for example. And a lot of these backup generators for electricity have been cut off. They're all used up. And, I've been trying really hard to schedule this Twitter space with the Palestinian journalist in Gaza, Motaz. But, every time I reach out to him, it's like a 3-day response. And I'm worried sick. I'm like, is he still alive? Or is he okay? Is he safe? What happened? And he'll message me like 3 days later and say, hey, sorry, Jackson, I couldn't do the Twitter space because they cut off the electricity. I had no electricity, no internet for the past 3 days. I say, no worries, just be safe. His last message to me was, there is no safe here. There is no such thing as safety here. Which I agree. I mean, based on what I've seen, I 100% agree. But my point is that these hospitals now are running out of electricity to keep the lights on, to keep basic medical equipment operating. And we've already seen in some hospitals, the babies' incubators are running out of needed oxygen, electricity, and that's causing babies, newborns, to die. So what is the great idea of the Israeli Defense Forces? It's this right here. They, in an effort to score propaganda points, got, Israeli Nicki Minaj to deliver a incubator, or multiple incubators, how generous, multiple baby incubators to Gazan hospitals. Now, I'd assume they probably didn't actually, transfer these to Gazan hospitals. Maybe they did, maybe they will, I don't know. But the problem is not that they don't have incubators, okay? That is not the problem. The problem is not that they don't have incubators. The problem is that the incubators don't have enough electricity, oxygen to continue operating, and thus the babies are dying. So giving them more incubators isn't going to solve anything. It's really just a slap in the face. It's as big of a slap in the face as what the Arab nations are doing right now. They're like, Erdogan is coming out, all these Jordan, they're all coming out, the Saudis, Qatar, they're all coming out and they're like, horrific war crimes, you must be tried at the International Criminal Court. We must file a petition, a lawsuit at the International Criminal Court to try Benjamin Netanyahu and his genocidal forces at the International Criminal Court. So, they're just saying, it's a lot of talk. And what do? Do they step up to the table and say, if you blow up one more hospital, we're coming in with our military. If you blow up one more refugee camp, we're going to be entering this war. If you airstrike one more school, we're going to have to respond. No, what they do is they say, hey, Israel, look, if you could, let's pause on the civilian atrocities. I know there's 5,000 civilians dead. Pause on the civilian atrocities for 4 hours. These people you're bombing, they're hungry. We need to feed them a little bit. Let's give them some expired, aid, some expired food, expired, Cliff Bars or something. Let's give them some expired food, then go back to your bombing, okay? All right. Sounds good. Thank you. That's all they do. They're like, okay, they're hungry. The people, the reason why these people are suffering is because they're hungry, not because they're being bombed left and right, not because you have 5,000 dead children, 12,000 dead civilians. The real problem is they're just a little bit hungry. They're just a little hungry. That's all. So it's the same thing, really. But I think it's even bigger slap in the face when it's the Arab nations who profess to care about this, profess to, stand against the genocide, and then really go along with it, still supply oil to Israel, lots of oil to Israel, and it's very sad. So, anyways, let's get into the hospital story. My fiance told me we have to get a coffee mug that says the dive with it, the dive with Jackson Hinkle. I think that's a good idea. Oh my God, you guys wouldn't believe. So I've got an idea. I don't even want to tell it to you yet, but I had an idea, and it's actually going to be a fundraiser for Palestinian causes. But I also want you guys to get something out of it too. The show display that you stand with Palestine. So I had the best idea, and I'm already in contact with the manufacturing on it. It is so good. It is so good. You guys are going to love it. You could probably even guess what it is, but I'm not going to tell you, even if you guess right now. So anyways, thank you everyone for tuning in on X and Rumble. If you're watching right now, please do support my work. We've been banned from Venmo, PayPal, YouTube, Twitch, T-Zilly, Represent, WhatsApp, and a whole host of other platforms. My sponsors left me when my YouTube was banned. So if you want to support my work, you like what I do here and the content we bring, how we expose the Zionists, they're trying to shut us down. They're trying to make sure that I can't do this show anymore. I can't be on Twitter anymore. Please consider donating to my show. You can do so in one of two ways. The first way, of course, is by subscribing to my X Premium. You can do that by just clicking the subscribe button at the top of my profile. It's $3 a month. Really makes a huge difference. The other way is by donating on our locals, which you can click right here, the join button on our Rumble stream. Click there and it takes you to our locals account where you can subscribe for monthly, annually, any amount of your choosing, and you get access to my premium content when you do that, okay? So thank you so much, all of you who support the show, and let's get into our next story. All right, so let's start off here. So we're going to talk about the hospital, all right? Now, I never really realized how insane of a genocidal ideologue Ben Shapiro is until I watched about 15 seconds of his show. Take a look at this. I don't even need to say more, but I will. Take a look at this, and we'll come back and talk.
Israel kills enough of these sons of bitches that this is not a problem again. Whenever anyone suggests that Israel is willfully killing civilians, that is the most ignorant, bigoted, anti-Semitic bullshit ever said. There cannot be a ceasefire. Anyone who calls for a ceasefire is a terrorist sympathizer under these circumstances. Israel.
So that's the mindset that these people have. If you call for a ceasefire, you are a genocidal terrorist supporter. What? If you call for this is the whole Ukraine thing over again. You know, during Ukraine, they said if you call for a ceasefire, if you call for a peace proposal, then you are aiding and abetting the Russian genocide of Ukrainians, even though they were liberating the Ukrainians from the Donbass. But it's a whole nother story. But they were saying, you know, you're siding with the Russians. No, we're not siding with the Russians. We just recognize that if you continue to push on in this war, A, you're going to lose. B, you're going to lose territory. C, you're going to lose hundreds of thousands of men. D, you're going to lose millions of dollars worth of weaponry. And there may just not even be a Ukrainian state left after all of this. If they had agreed to a peace deal at the start, then none of this would have happened. So I guess, Ben, you know, someone asked me yesterday, Jackson, do you support a ceasefire? And I said, well, I think it's up to the parties involved, whether or not they want a ceasefire. It's really not up to me. They want a ceasefire? Great. If not, then let them explain why not. You know, I'm not here to decide. I think a ceasefire would be good. I think it would stop the bloodshed. But I think there's also some people who are more accelerationists that believe that they can defeat Israel once and for all, and that they'd rather bite the head off the snake right now than let this just be another chapter in the decades and decades and decades long story that will continue to unfold about Israel's genocide and ethnic cleansing of Palestine. So there's, you know, different arguments, and I'm not the arbiter. I'm not a Palestinian. I live in Miami, so it's really not up for me to decide. Although I can state that I think the overwhelming majority of Palestinians do call for a ceasefire. It's actually interesting. 68% of Americans are now calling for a ceasefire. Only 32% of Americans think we should support Israel. That is a record low number of Americans who say that they support Israel. And I just think it's incredible. It's for the first time we've seen 68% of Americans saying, nah, I'm not really backing Israel on this one. We should have a ceasefire. And you know what? They're right. They're 100% correct. It is correct not to back Israel. Because look at the genocidal lies they're putting out about why they're bombing hospitals, okay? We already uncovered the first set of lies in our last stream about how they found a calendar with the terrorist names on it. It ended up being that the terrorist names were not really terrorists. It was just the days of the week written in Arabic. They showed us video. What else did they show us? They showed us video of baby clothes and baby bottles in a children's hospital, in the basement of a children's hospital where they were hiding out from Israeli bombings. They showed us a... what else did they show us? They showed us a toilet in the basement where they were hiding out from bombings. And that was it. I mean, I think that was it. Oh, they showed us, they said that they're, okay, so they're at the Al-Shifa hospital, right? They said that they're 200 yards away from the Al-Shifa hospital. There was a tunnel, and that tunnel was not actually a tunnel. It was an elevator shaft. And I can't believe, like, Ben Shapiro literally had the guts to actually post this and claim it was a Hamas terrorist tunnel inside Hamas's hospitals from hell. By the way, Ben Shapiro thinks that Jesus Christ is in hell right now. That's how insane of a guy this is. He thinks Jesus Christ is in hell. But this is this is an elevator shaft. He said it is a Hamas terrorist tunnel. Okay, so just verbatim repeating the Israeli propaganda as he portrays himself as some sort of like an investigative journalist or a commentator. Of course, we had the shocking evidence of the calendar that was on the wall of the hospital that claimed it showed the terrorist names, but it was actually just, the days of the week. But now we've moved on to the new set of lies, okay? And the new set of lies is really interesting, but keep in mind, if you call out these things as lies, you will be labeled not only as a genocide terrorist apologist, but according to this new interview on Al Jazeera with an Israeli ambassador, you will be accused of, this denial. This right here, you'll be accused of that. So let's take a look at this video. Mark Lamont Hill breaks it down very well.
You said that there's collateral damage in all war and that a body of international laws, which you still haven't named any, say that collateral damage is permissible within war. I agree that collateral damage is permissible within war. Again, that's not in dispute. What's in dispute is whether civilians can be deemed sufficient collateral damage, or whether civilians can be within the realm of the target if it's avoidable. Targeting a refugee camp, Jabalia refugee camp, is not an example of targeting Hamas and there's just a few casualties. Targeting a refugee camp where there are children, targeting hospitals and mosques and churches are all direct violations of international law, despite the fact that you keep saying that it isn't. And we can move on because there are lots of things I want to get
No, let's not move on. No, let's not.
Okay, for sure.
Let's not move on. Let's not move on.
Fine.
Let's stay right there. Tell me which hospital that Israel has targeted. Tell me which one. You said Israel targets hospitals. The only hospital that got targeted so far in this war was targeted by Islamic Jihad. Okay. Don't tell me about. And by the way,
is that a question? I'm happy to answer it. I'm happy to answer the question.
It's been proven with certainty. It's been proven with certainty that the headquarters of Hamas is under the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza City. Now, you know what happened a couple of days ago?
Proven by
Hamas had a big Mark, are you going to let me finish?
I cannot allow you to. I cannot allow you to say 15 things that are unfactual and not be challenged on them. I'm happy to let you talk, but I'm going to ask clarifying questions.
You're going to tell me what's factual? Mark,
yes,
I spent 5 years of my life studying this, living it. When was the last time you were in Gaza, Mark? When was the last time you were in Gaza?
18 months ago. When was the last time you were in Gaza? When was the last time you were in Gaza?
A few years ago.
Okay.
He thought that was such a gotcha. When was the last time you've been in Gaza? As if that counts for anything. And he's like, 18 months ago. What about you? A few years ago. He should have said how many years ago? 8.
So you said Al-Shifa Hospital has been proven Hamas headquarters. What independent reference, what source, what investigation has proven that? Who has proven that it's an Al-Shifa hospital? Since it's been a proven fact, who proved it?
So now we're going to get into this basic Holocaust denying idea that evidence that Israel has shown is not valid. I mean, is that what you're doing?
It's Holocaust denial if you say that there's not a Hamas command center under the Al-Shifa hospital now.
Everybody that challenges you is not doing Holocaust denial. You said that it's a Hamas headquarter.
So that's apparently what you're going to get accused of now if you say there's no command center of Hamas inside or under the Al-Shifa hospital, okay? But that's not stopping the Israeli propagandists because they now claim to have, verified proof that, yes, in fact, there is a Hamas command center inside the Al-Shifa hospital. So let's take a look and see what their incredible proof actually is. For starters, they showed us this video right here, which is allegedly outside of the Al-Shifa hospital. Okay? They said this right here is a Hamas terrorist tunnel. They said they found another one. This one's clearly not an elevator. They said they found a Hamas terrorist tunnel outside of the Al-Shifa hospital. And I guess that's the Al-Shifa hospital right there. And they said this is proof that there is a Hamas tunnel system underneath the Al-Shifa hospital. Now, keep in mind, this is about probably, 200 yards away from the hospital itself. So you can't claim that blowing up the hospital, raiding the hospital, firing into the hospital is somehow a legitimate target, because this is 200 yards away, even if this was a Hamas tunnel. But there's actually something really interesting about this tunnel, okay? When I saw this shared yesterday, I said, apparently they're claiming this is a Hamas tunnel, right? But all I see is a giant crater under all this rubble, right? I'm just going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say I don't think this is a Hamas tunnel. I don't see a tunnel. If there was a tunnel, I think they'd show us the video going down in there. I don't see Hamas fighters. The hospital's not even close to it. 2 days ago, you guys lied and said that a elevator shaft was a Hamas tunnel. So I'm going to go out on a limb here and say I don't think this is a Hamas tunnel. Well, if you were with me and you said I don't think that's a Hamas tunnel, you would have been proven correct. Because it turns out when further photos were released of this alleged Hamas tunnel, it actually turned out to be a water reservoir. And you can see that in the piping right here and the infrastructure of that same circular dome thing, which is the water reservoir, okay? So turns out this was a water reservoir, not a Hamas tunnel, okay? So another Hamas tunnel exposed as first being an elevator shaft. This time it was exposed as being a water reservoir. Well, now let's look, because they have another video that they shared, which they claim is the ultimate evidence that it currently exists about the fact that the Al-Shifa hospital is in fact a Hamas terror zone. So let's watch this. Let's watch this. Let's take a look. Here we go.
Shalom everyone, Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan from the IDF here. I am in the Shifa hospital, as you can see from the sign behind me, and as you can clearly see from the building. We are going to do a one-shot video. One shot, no editing, of all of the evidence that we have found just now in this building of the Shifa hospital.
So keep in mind, they do this whole thing. We're going to do a one-shot video, no editing, and this is going to be a one-shot video. They posted it, and they said no cuts, no edits, no jump cuts. Here it is. Here's the evidence. And then they deleted the video. As you can see, let me move this up. It says, this post has been deleted. No cuts, no edits, just the undeniable truth. Watches Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus exposes the countless Hamas weapons IDF troops have uncovered in the Al-Shifa hospital's MRI building, okay? So, what jumped out to me was that they deleted this immediately after it got 2.7 million views. And then they said that this is proof that they have weapons in the MRI building of the Al-Shifa hospital. Now, that raised a red flag for me, because I thought, really, weapons inside an MRI building? If you guys don't know, this is what happens if you have metal inside of an MRI building, okay? This is what happens. So these people demonstrate this is an MRI machine. You do cancer screening and whatnot with it. And this is what happens when you have metal in the same room when the MRI machine is on. Take a look. It gets sucked in. That was a chair. They try to pull it out. You can't pull it out. So that would literally kill someone, even if you had like a metal chair in the same room, okay? So they're claiming that Hamas has like a weapons cache inside of the MRI building, or the MRI room actually is what they claim. But we know that's bogus, because the MRI machine would not be able to operate if that was the case. So let's take a look.
So we're inside the MRI center of the Shifa hospital. Israeli troops breached here a few hours ago, and we have cleared the area, make sure that it's safe. And a few of the most interesting things that we have found totally confirm, without any doubt, that Hamas systematically uses hospitals in their military operations in violation of international law. And what we have found, I think, is only the tip of the iceberg. Let me show you a few examples. Security cameras have been obstructed. All of the security cameras are covered, and this isn't the only one. You'll see the rest of them here. Follow me as we go in, and we will see the MRI center. And this is...
I'm sorry, I don't even know what is this the security camera that was obstructed? Is that what it is? I don't even know what he's or is this? I don't even know what he's referring to.
The only one. You'll see the rest of them.
And if that's the case, couldn't they have just come in and put some like white tape over it or something?
I'm here. Follow me as we go in, and we will see the MRI center and see the weapons that Hamas has hidden inside. This is where patients come in order to get MRI services. We'll proceed into a more secure.
And it's like, yeah, that would actually make, even if, okay, let's say even if this wasn't staged, which it so clearly is, as you'll see in a second, but okay, let's just say, Mahmoud Abbas, the Palestinian, pseudo president, whatever. Let's say he needed an MRI screening, okay? And he went to the Al-Shifa hospital to get an MRI screening. Security camera footage shows him walk into the hospital. He's sitting in there, whatever. Or a more nefarious character than Mahmoud Abbas, maybe, whatever. Doing routine medical treatment, whatever. Maybe even a Hamas fighter, right? Hamas leader. Getting his MRI, and then Israel has like access to the MRI security camera footage, and they go to blow up the hospital because the leader of Hamas is in. You know what I'm saying? It's like, even if this was real, which it's not, it's staged, but even if, you can't just say that gives us, that gives us the green light to blow up hospitals now and to fire, live rounds into a hospital. It doesn't.
Secluded area. And the lighting here is out, so we're using flashlights. We're now, as you can see, in an MRI room. I don't know when this was used the last time. But it is definitely an MRI machine. And if you follow me behind the MRI machine, I'll show you what our troops exposed just minutes ago. In military terms, this is a grab bag. Grab and go of a Hamas combatant. And if you zoom in and we get some light over here, what you will be able to see.
So apparently the Hamas fighters, they left like a grab bag that they could have easily taken from the hospital of some rifles and a grenade or something, or maybe one rifle and a couple grenades. If it's a grab bag, my question is, why didn't they just take the grab bag? This is clearly staged. Everything else in the hospital is medical equipment. It's not like it's a command center. And it's an MRI room. If that MRI machine turns on, these guns are going to get sucked in to the MRI machine. This is so fake.
Is military equipment. There is an AK-47. There are cartridges, ammo. There are grenades in here. Of course, uniform.
So so this also is what I find funny. Israel keeps saying, oh my God, this is illegal. These soldiers aren't wearing any uniforms. These Hamas soldiers aren't wearing uniforms. Keep in mind, U.S. Special Operations Forces were notorious for dressing up in local Afghan civilian garb when they were operating routinely in Afghanistan and Kabul. And they would always, special ops would always wear, not always, but a lot of the times they'd wear just normal military garb. They'd wear like a big shawl, and they'd carry their guns underneath the shawl. So if it's illegal for Hamas to do it, then I guess that means it's illegal for the U.S. to do it too? Or is it? Are we only calling out one side here, And now they're saying, oh, and they have the Hamas terrorists, the uniforms in here. They have a rifle and ammunition, and they have some grenades. Yeah, I'm sure they just left a grab bag of grenades, ammo, rifle, and one uniform inside the MRI room in the Al-Shifa hospital. 100%.
And all of this was hidden very conveniently, secretly behind the MRI machine. On the other side, we found a backpack with what appears to be very important intelligence, including a laptop, and we'll show you that momentarily. Let's go see the next room. So we're still in the MRI center. The backpack was found in here, and it was also...
So he shows all the medical equipment here. This is all medical equipment. He opens up some of the bags, and then he goes in here, you know, blah, 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 MRI room, whatever. There's like nothing in here. Uniform, whatever. I mean, this is worse than Ukraine propaganda at this point. Okay, uniform, like, okay, this uniform is cleaner than the resigned lieutenant colonel's uniform that's walking into the... Okay, look at his uniform. He's got some scuffs, some dirt. It's used, you know. The Hamas uniform looks like they bought it from like Amazon.com or like Alibaba or something. Like they just bought like a brand new, perfectly clean Hamas uniform and left it in a random shelf inside the hospital. I mean, it's worse than Ukraine propaganda. And then they shared this blurred out, edited. They said it was unedited, but they shared this blurred out image of the computer, which I guess is supposed to show a prisoner who was taken hostage by Hamas on October 7th. And this is it. So I guess they open the computer. So this is how stupid they think we are. They open a computer. It doesn't have a password, doesn't have a lock screen, doesn't have any of that. They open the computer, and the first thing is just a giant blown up image of this Israeli soldier that was taken as a hostage. She was taken as hostage by Hamas on October 7th and was freed 27 days later. And this is very bad, and it's clear that they were... Hamas was fondling themselves to the photo of Israeli soldier woman that was taken hostage. I don't know. It's like, what? They don't have computer codes in Gaza. They don't have like a password. They just open up the computer and it's a giant ass photo of this. It's such bad like, why? What does that even mean? The propaganda is horrendous. Okay. So, anyways, that was the extent of the hospital footage. This was the weapons cache from the Hamas command center inside of the hospital. You've got all these random mags next to these rifles. Brand spanking new Hamas, a vest of some sort. I don't know, bulletproof vest, I don't know what. Brand spanking new Hamas vest right here. Brand spanking new shoes and Hamas uniforms. And mask, one shirt, one hat, pants, I don't know what these are. Brand spanking new 3 vests, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 rifles with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 different mags, pistol, and that's it. Okay. Oh, and some grenades. It's so pathetic. It's so pathetic. The level they go to lie about why they're blowing up these hospitals. Again, keep in mind, literally, the Times is also reporting, the Times in London, they're reporting that Israeli forces are digging, excavating, breaking tiles, and looking for Hamas tunnels under the Al-Shifa hospital. Keep in mind, 2 days ago, Israel said they found clearly marked entranceways in the hospital that led to a Hamas headquarters. That's what Israel told the Times. Now the Times is reporting 2 days later that Israeli forces are having to excavate, dig up, try to find, breaking tiles on the floor, trying to find something that resembles a tunnel that they can, share on Twitter. And also, lastly, Israel literally had to delete another tweet just the other day because in it they admitted to targeting ambulances and bombings. They said, "We know that ambulances are used to transport patients in need of emergency medical care, and hospitals are institutions where patients go to receive medical treatment, right? For Hamas, even though they have no evidence of this, ambulances are used to transport its operatives and weapons to disguise them as civilians, and hospitals are in fact terrorist infrastructure, not the most medical purpose. This is against international law and turns them into legitimate military targets." Ambulances, they said, are legitimate military targets. Now, Gaza's, airspace is flooded with Israeli drones. You'd think that at some point or another, they'd have footage of Hamas terrorists getting into these ambulances or going inside of a hospital, but they don't because they make this all up. It's a bunch of lies used to justify genocidal war crimes against the people of Palestine in hospitals, schools, homes, refugee camps, UN facilities, Red Crescent facilities, etc., okay? This is what they do, and they're really bad at the propaganda because it just took me about 10 minutes to expose all of the lies in one single video. I rest my case. I rest my case. All right. Bro, send me to Harvard Law. Come on, I'm too good at this. If Reese Witherspoon can get into Harvard Law, Legally Blonde, I think I can. Okay, where do we want to go to next? Thank you all for tuning in. It's good to have you all here. X Rumble. Let's go here. So Jackson, you need to stop with the polo shirts. Respectfully, that's something that only a fat person would say. Just putting that out there. Because the polo shirts, it's slim fit, you know, and if you're morbidly obese, it doesn't look too good. I've seen it. It doesn't look good. Okay, let's go to this. So there have been some unlikely voices that have come out in defense of Palestine against this Israeli war criminality, okay? Let's break down a few of these videos because I think you'll find it really surprising. The Israelis are now even losing CNN, Piers Morgan, kind of. MSNBC. They're losing the BBC of all outlets, right? The BBC The BBC actually posted this, by the way, before we share anything depicting these in these platforms, these outlets in a positive light. I should share this with you. I mean, I do enough mainstream media bashing for you to understand my true thoughts and opinions, but I'll give credit where credit is due. But take a look at this. They actually posted this. BBC question time. Audience question. Is the Israeli targeting... That's like an Australian accent. Is the Israeli targeting of a Gaza hospital justified? What say you? Your average Briton? What say you? Is the Israeli targeting of a Gaza hospital justified? I don't know, BBC. I don't know. These questions are too difficult. Anyways, take a look at this. BBC proves that Israel's staging weapons caches in civilian buildings. It's all fake. It also stated Israel has not yet produced evidence that the Al-Shifa hospital was a Hamas headquarters.
Israel described the Al-Shifa hospital as the main headquarters for Hamas's terrorist activity. This IDF animation, posted in late October, claims to represent a Hamas tunnel system underneath the hospital. But having been inside Al-Shifa since early Wednesday, Israel's yet to produce evidence of the tunnels. It has allowed the BBC and Fox News to film at the hospital, though only locations of Israel's choice.
This is what they found.
Israel also released its own 7-minute video, which BBC Verify has analysed. A watch, visible in that video, suggests it was filmed a few hours before the BBC arrived. And this IDF video was posted, then deleted, then reposted, this time without a section referring to an Israeli soldier who'd been held hostage.
I don't know when this was used the last time.
Also in the video, we see a room with an MRI machine.
And if you zoom in and we get some light over here, what you'll be able to see is military equipment.
The BBC was shown the same room. And what we see in the two videos doesn't precisely match. For example, there's one gun in the IDF video, two by the time of the BBC footage. Israel has told BBC Verify this is because more weaponry and terrorist assets were discovered throughout the day.
And as always, an AK-47.
Israel...
They just admitted that they staged it. They just admitted they found another weapon and staged it.
Also says its video is a single shot with no edits. But this appears to be an edit. We don't know the reasons for that edit, nor how significant it is. The IDF, though, says suggestions it's manipulating the media are incorrect. The IDF video also shows military equipment in other locations, though we can't verify how it came to be there. And what we see in this IDF video doesn't equate to Israel's description of Al-Shifa as an operational command center for Hamas. The US is using a different phrase, saying Al-Shifa was used as a command and control node. That implies a much smaller facility. Israel is adamant this hospital was a command center, but for now, at least, it's either not found supporting evidence or it's not sharing it. Back to you, Sophie.
Israel has now lost the BBC. I mean, how ludicrous must your lives be if you're Israel to lose the BBC? CNN also, we're not going to react to this full clip because I can't listen to this dweeb, but CNN is also turning on Netanyahu, critiquing him. And Israel themselves on MSNBC have come out to admit that some of the, well, we'll just listen to the clip.
We had the number at 1,400 casualties, and now we've revised that down to 1,200 because we understood that we had overestimated. We made a mistake. There were actually bodies that were so badly burnt, we thought they were ours. In the end, apparently, they were Hamas terrorists. When we make a mistake, we admit it.
So a good journalist in that scenario, which whatever his name is, what's that guy's name? The Arab guy. Why am I forgetting his name? He's on MSNBC, that pundit. Anyways, he said, the Israeli representative said that 1,400, we thought it was 1,400 dead on October 7. Now we're learning it was 1,200 because 200 of the bodies were just very badly burned Hamas fighters. Who burned them? That's the question I would ask. Who burned them? And is it possible that the same entity, Israel, who burned those Hamas fighters' bodies, also burned the bodies of Israeli civilians and military personnel whose bodies were burned? Is that possible? Because when Hamas fighters came over on their paragliders, I didn't see them carry, I saw some of the videos of the paragliders. I didn't see them carrying flamethrowers. Everyone says, Jackson, there's GoPro footage of the Hamas fighters fighting against the civilians. Oh, the civilians had the guns. They're well armed and whatnot. But I didn't see any Hamas GoPro footage of them burning civilians with flamethrowers. Mehdi Hassan, that's his name. Thank you. I didn't see them burn. So who burned the Hamas soldiers? Did they burn themselves? Were they electrocuted by a lightning strike? Did they walk into an open pit fire? Or did Israeli tanks and Apache attack helicopters, go after them and burn their bodies? And if they did, can't we assume that they also either on accident or, on purpose in the name of collateral damage, unfortunate, tragic collateral damage, may have burned the bodies of the other Israeli citizens and fighters that were burned to death that day? Because again, they didn't carry tanks on the paragliders. They didn't come over in an Apache attack helicopter. So who burned them? Proves our point. French President Emmanuel Macron condemns Israeli war crimes and calls for a ceasefire. That's pretty big. Donald Trump said something that no other politician running for president, with the exception of maybe the shill Cornel West, has said. Cornel West, he had some good comments on this, but Cornel West is a pathetic joke. He's a clown. But RFK Jr., I was talking to someone the other day who you all know, and he said, he said, the whole RFK Jr. thing, he claims to be a peace candidate. This ruins his whole peace candidacy, standing with Israel, right? And he knows that. It's inexplicable as to why he supports Israel. It's inexplicable. Unless you understand that somehow or another, Mossad has dirt on him and got him to, say what he says. Now, I didn't know this about RFK Jr., but apparently, according to RFK Jr. himself, he's a rabid sex addict. Now, it is what it is. A lot of people have their own problems, and that's fine, and they'll sort it out in their own way, hopefully. But he's a deranged sex addict, okay? Doesn't mean anything nefarious happened, but he is a deranged sex addict. And, he kept this, RFK Jr., he kept this private journal where he recorded all the women that he slept with. And he's also a narcissist. He's got these clear narcissistic tendencies. In the journal, when he wrote about his sex addiction, apparently in this, he would label each sexual encounter he had as getting mugged. He'd say the woman mugged me, and then I had to have sex with her. That's how he justified it in his brain, because he's a clinical narcissist. If that's a real thing, I'm not a doctor, I don't know, but that's what they say. He'd say I got mugged, and that's why I had to have sex with her. And he'd villainize the woman and blame the woman, but we all know what was really happening. So he'd write a diary, and then lo and behold, I guess, his ex-wife found the diary at some point. I don't know if there was cheating. I don't know. I just know she found the diary with his previous sex life, deeply detailed in it. And then she very sadly took her own life. And I think when something as tragic as that happens, you might fall into a breakdown. I know he struggled with drugs as well. I'm not trying to make light of any of this, but I'm just showing you that he clearly is a man with problems, with very serious addictions he had. And he is someone who, in that scenario, I would label as not someone who is necessarily compromised, but is easy to compromise, okay? I always think of myself as someone who it's well, I've been a public person since I was in high school, so there's nothing anyone could do to me to try and attack me or smear me. That's why whenever someone tries to smear me, their smears always fall short. The BBC had an hour-long phone call with me. They were trying to smear me to write this hit piece on me. They didn't even publish the article because I posted the phone call. It was so ridiculous. They didn't even post the article. They asked me 100 questions. They didn't even post the article. So Rolling Stone, same thing. They did that. They didn't post the article. The worst smear anyone has of me is they post a fake tweet that I never wrote, and then Twitter corrected them, Community Notes corrected them and said, this is a fake tweet. You can tell by the font. It's a fake tweet. Jackson didn't write this. So I'm very hard to compromise. I've lost all my income sources and I still come back fighting harder than ever before. I'm very hard to compromise. RFK Jr. is very easy to compromise, admittedly, So all of that aside, we also know that RFK Jr. has flown on the Lolita Express on 2 separate occasions, at least, Jeffrey Epstein's private plane. Now, the story I heard is that RFK Jr., yeah, he did fly on Jeffrey Epstein's plane, but this is what he says. Jeffrey Epstein, he kicked me off the plane because, we landed early and I got kicked off the plane because my children were so annoying to him that he kicked us off the plane. I'm like, that's the worst lie I've ever heard. That's a Mossad lie if I've ever heard one. Jeffrey Epstein was irritated by kids, so he kicked your whole family off? When has Jeffrey Epstein ever been irritated by kids or made a concerted effort to separate himself from children? That's your defense. Now look, I'm not saying anything nefarious happened. I don't know. There's been no accusations from what I understand. But how many of you, I can speak for myself. How many of you were loaned a free flight on Jeffrey Epstein's private jet? Probably none of you. Probably none of you. There actually is a list of people who were, allowed to fly on Jeffrey Epstein's private plane, and a lot of those people have been outed as, child predators. So I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying it's interesting that RFK Jr. is a peace candidate on so many issues. He calls for peace, but on Israel, he's not. He's got a sex addiction, he had a drug problem. Admittedly, he's very easy to compromise. And he flew on Jeffrey Epstein's plane twice, and his defense is that he got kicked off the plane with his family because his kids irritated Jeffrey Epstein. And I'm like, Jeffrey Epstein separated himself from... Not the best defense. So anyways, Donald Trump, however, did speak on the conflict in Gaza. Not actually too bad what he said. Take a listen.
It's very hard. There is no hatred like the Palestinian hatred of Israel and Jewish people, and probably the other way around also. I don't know, it's not as obvious, but probably that's it too. So sometimes you have to let things play out, and you have to see where it ends. The sad part is there would have never been an attack on Israel, and there would have never been a counterattack on
Gaza.
Yeah. I mean, Gaza, what's happening to Gaza, it's just unbelievable.
You've seen the images, heard the stories.
No, it's horrible. It's horrible on both sides.
So that scores better than any presidential candidate besides Cornel West, for example, who's just a joke, clown, non-starter, right? Dead on arrival. But out of any presidential candidate in the mainstream parties or independent, RFK Jr. that are, viable or even not viable, that is the best I've heard out of everyone. That's the best. Everyone from Vivek Ramaswamy to Nikki Haley to the fat ass Chris Christie to Mike Pence, who dropped out, to Joe Biden, to RFK Jr., any of the other ones. Who am I missing? There's got to be a couple I'm missing, right? That's the best I've heard. He said that there's no hatred, that the hatred of Palestinians to Israelis, and there's no hatred of the Israelis to the Palestinians. There's nothing like it. He said it's horrible what's happening in Gaza right now. It's horrible. It's horrible on both sides. He said it never would have happened if I was president. There wouldn't have been an attack on Israel, and there wouldn't have been a counterattack on Gaza. It's horrible what's happening on both sides. Sometimes, however, you just have to let things play out. Okay. I mean, I understand Trump's history. I understand he bombed Qasem Soleimani. Worst part of his administration. He did try to get U.S. troops out of Syria, occupying northeast Syria, oil fields with the Kurdish forces. That was good, but he was lied to by James Jeffries, who kept the troops there. The Abraham Accords obviously excluded the Palestinians, so that wasn't good. Normalization talks, but I mean, that's been going on for years. And so, I mean, he's not like a hero or anything, but I'm just going to say, if you're going to choose, least worst option, in a moment of absolute infinite crisis, be it with Russia, China, Israel, everything, whatever, Arab states, Donald Trump is the least worst spokesperson on this issue. Now, do I have any faith that he would cease the Israeli bombing campaign? No. I'm just saying, for what it is, that was a relatively good statement. I understand he's put out other things that are not good. The Hamas terrorists, he said something like, I'll revoke the visas of any non-U.S. residents, non-U.S. citizens that support Hamas. I understand. He said plenty of terrible things as well. But that statement, credit where credit's due, that wasn't really that bad, okay? Now, this statement is far better. This is from a Canadian politician who asked how many Palestinian deaths will be enough for the Prime Minister to find the moral courage and call for a ceasefire. Take a listen.
The honourable member from Hamilton Centre. UN agencies report over 10,000 Palestinian civilians have been killed and 1.5 million have been displaced by the Israeli siege and bombardment on Gaza since October 7th. UN experts say that these attacks constitute war crimes of collective punishment and ethnic cleansing. Shamefully, the Prime Minister directed his ambassador to abstain from a vote on an immediate ceasefire in Gaza on the UN General Assembly, and yesterday liberals and conservatives voted against our motion.
Someone said Dr. Shiva is the best on his Israel position. Yeah, I saw that clip. That was really good. I thought it was hilarious, actually, that Dr. Shiva post. Now, let me see if I can find that. All right, if you guys haven't seen this dude's running for president.
Be able
Dr. Shiva Ayudari.
The amount of propaganda that people have gotten not to be able to understand Zionism equated to Judaism as though Israel serves the interests of the American people is what they're about. Zionists have taken over the political system, the financial system, Hollywood, the entertainment, all aspects of this. They don't give a damn about a Jewish person being killed or a Palestinian person being killed. I do. I'm the only presidential candidate who does. The solution for this is not one fucking penny to Israel. Cut it all off. Today, we should take all of these war criminals and round them up and put them in military prison. We should probably invade Israel on behalf of the Jews and Palestinians. America has done that in other countries, have we not? We've invaded many countries, but we've always invaded countries on the behalf of dictators. Why don't we, for the first time, invade a fucking country on the behalf of the American people and the Palestinian people and the Jewish people? And the soldiers fighting there would actually be doing a noble deed. By the way, someone just reminded us that we should talk.
He has this video where he says, I'm the only presidential candidate that doesn't suck Zionist cock. I don't know where it is.
That may not sound presidential, but in fact, it's very presidential because I represent the American worker who does not want us to be cocksuckers of Zionism. Donald Trump sucks Zionist cock. Nikki Haley sucks Zionist cock. Vivek the Snake sucks Zionist cock. Chris Christie, Booby fucking Kennedy, Joe Biden, all of these people. The only people that don't suck Zionist cock are the American workers who are being screwed. I'm an American worker. I'm one of us. But Donald Trump is no different than any one of them. They all serve Israel. Bernie Sanders, for example, is an Israeli citizen. Anthony Blinken is an Israeli citizen. The head of the CDC is an Israeli citizen. All of these people are Israeli citizens. All of these people work together against the American working people.
So I'll just say my 2 cents about this guy. First of all, respectfully, I agree with you on the issue of Israel and Palestine, I think, based on the few videos I've seen. But I would say lose the cussing. And I'm saying that as someone who used to cuss a lot in my videos, just because I was passionate. I'm not saying that he's like stupid or anything like that. I'm just saying I used to cuss a lot in my videos because I was passionate. And that's just how sometimes people talk. Like if you're just talking to each other, that's just how you talk. Like if you're talking to your friends, that's how you talk. And we are dealing with issues that are very dire and serious. So I get it. But I'd say lose the cussing because it's just there's no reason. It causes people to stop watching the video and it causes like, you know what I'm saying? It's just like, there's no reason for it. And it just doesn't come off presidential. And I actually like what he said, I agree. So I want, I want him to come off and get the message out there to as many people as possible, come off as like a serious guy. So I'd say lose the cursing. The other thing is, I don't think this guy is good at coalition building. And again, I say that as someone, I don't know his opinions on anything else, so I can't speak to him as a candidate, really. I've had some people recommend I talk to him, and I think I used to follow him on Twitter, and then like he unfollowed me or something. I don't even know what happened. And then I get people sending me stuff that he's like bad-mouthing me. Like he's attacking me on Twitter, kind of, and he was saying very ironic that the communist Jackson Hinkle doesn't share our workers' protests at Harvard. I'm like, I'm not trying to sound like a douche, but like I've got 2 million followers and no one sent me that post. How am I supposed to randomly see that on my Twitter feed? It's like my notifications are through the roof. I'm not on I tweet a lot, but like I scheduled a tweet. I'm not on Twitter 24. Like I didn't see that. And my DMs are like, oh, I only see DMs from people I follow. I don't follow him. So he attacked me and I was like, okay. I'm like, I don't really care. It's just like, why? And then he did another live stream the other day where, again, someone sent it to me. Someone I know sent it to me, and they're like, he's attacking you again. And I was like, what is with this? Like, I like what he's saying. Why are you attacking me? I don't even know what he said in the video. I couldn't find it, but I had few people send it to me, and they're like, yeah, he's talking bad about you. I think he has some misconception about you or something. And I'm like, he thinks I don't like him. And I'm like, I don't know you. I just saw that video of him saying, I don't suck Zionist cock, and I thought it was funny. And I used to follow him because I think he posted like COVID or Russia content, and I thought it was good. Well, I don't know. What I think is that if you want to be president, you know, especially with people that are viral and even people that aren't viral, it's like you have to be willing to work with them and be open-minded, give people second chance. I don't know if I even can call it a second chance with me, because I don't think I did anything wrong. I don't even think I talked to this guy. He's attacking me. But anyways, I'll just say that, I mean, I'm not really too keen on having you on my show right now, but I think you're doing good stuff. I like what you're doing. I just don't know why you're attacking me. I don't know. I've got plenty of followers that like you. I liked your videos, but I thought it was funny. But I don't know why you're attacking me. It's like, you know what I always say? It's what Jimmy Dore always says, actually. Jimmy Dore says, if you're in a union and you're trying to get higher wages for your whole workforce, you get everyone out on the union floor, all the workers in a manufacturing company, the way you get higher salaries for everyone is by using the collective force of every worker to bring the workplace to a halt until you get whatever achieved goal you're pursuing. You don't get every worker on the workplace and then say, okay, who here supports Donald Trump? Raise your hand. Okay, everyone who raised their hand, we don't want you. Who here doesn't support, transgenderism? Raise your hand. Okay, we don't want you. Okay, everyone who's left, we're going to organize the workplace now. It's like, that's not how it works. So I don't know what I did to this guy, but I don't really care. Your campaign's not going anywhere. You make funny videos, but your campaign's not going anywhere, which is sad because you can't control your temper. So anyways, that guy is interesting. Now, even more interesting is this. So my friend Aaron Mate, he's a journalist at the Gray Zone. He's won numerous journalistic awards. He's really, really great. He uncovered all of the OPCW cover-up surrounding the Duma alleged chemical attack in Syria, and he exposed that they were lying about Assad. He just so happened to sit directly across from Senator Chris Coons on an Amtrak train, and they were in the quiet car of the Amtrak train. So Aaron, in a very hushed tone, asked him some questions about why Senator Chris Coons is not calling for a ceasefire amidst the genocide in Gaza. At this point in time, 4,600 children had already been killed in the genocide. And so this video is hilarious. Aaron actually got kicked off of the Amtrak train. Keep in mind, when you're in the quiet car, you're still allowed to use a hushed voice. Okay, you're still allowed to talk. It's not like you have to be silent. You can use a hushed voice. And the senator kicked him off of the Amtrak car. So let's take a listen.
Senator, I'm sorry to put you on the spot, but when I call for a ceasefire in Gaza, I'm a journalist, my name's Aaron Mate. When I call for a ceasefire in Gaza, you have 4,600 children killed. 46. I know it's a quiet car, and I apologize for abuse, but I understand, but children are dying. Children are dying, sir. More than 40. When I call for a ceasefire, they're being killed with our weapons. U.S. weapons are killing kids in Gaza.
Who are you?
My name is Aaron Mate. I'm a journalist.
Nice to meet you, Aaron.
Likewise.
Please stop talking to me.
I'm sorry, sir. It's of dire importance. More than 11,000 civilians, as we're talking, being killed. I'm a journalist for the Gray Zone.
What's the Gray Zone?
It's a.
And what's your social security number, Aaron?
U.S.-based news website.
Good for you.
Thank you. And right now, with our support, kids are being killed. I'm sorry. With our weapons, I'm asking you to explain when I call for a ceasefire.
You're bothering me and everyone else around us.
Kids in Gaza are being massacred. I'm asking you.
Aaron, you're bothering everyone around us as you're asking about the 10,000 people that were just slaughtered in Gaza.
Please explain. Why not call for a ceasefire?
Stop. Sir, could I please have some help here?
Kids are being killed.
Like, what I don't understand is what if he really didn't want to talk, why don't you just like get up and walk away? You know? He had to come and have the Amtrak assistant help him? What a pussy.
Stop. I'm asking you to stop.
Why not stop?
Why not call for the stopping of the interview me? You're bothering everybody else around.
It's a crisis right now.
How did you get this seat?
I bought the seat.
How did you get this seat? I bought this seat.
No.
Get the peasant away from me. I understand he bought the seat, but get the peasant away from me.
He's bothering me while I'm trying to do work.
And our government is paying for weapons that are murdering children. Guys, I'm asking you, want to call for a ceasefire?
Aaron.
Can you explain that?
Please stop.
Can I ask you to explain why I call for a ceasefire?
You've already asked me 5 times. I'm not going to call for a ceasefire. I strongly support humanitarian causes. I've urged the Israeli government to target their campaign against Hamas. But you need
Do you think
to
the campaign is targeting against Hamas when civilians are being massacred, when babies in incubators are dying because the fuel is being cut off?
I'm going to have you thrown off this train. Please stop doing
Please stop, or else I'm going to have you pulled off this train.
this.
Which he did.
I have to ask these
me
questions.
10 times.
I know, and I
You're
will
getting
keep...
as professional, measured, and appropriate an answer out of me as you can. This is not professional journalism. Please get up and leave now.
That's not a response.
I don't think it's humane to be massacring kids. That's the problem here.
That's
I realize I'm not being
I don't think it's
professional.
humane to be massacring kids either.
Okay, then why are we supporting
when Hamas massacred 1,400 Israeli civilians,
1,200.
The whole world should
half of whom were military.
Unite in opposition to terrorism.
First of all, the number is 1,200. It wasn't entirely civilians, but
over how many civilians were massacred by Hamas?
It's important to be precise. It's important,
It is important to be precise.
But yes, civilians were massacred.
I'm a senator.
Does that give us the right to kill?
I'm a senator. You're a pleb. Get off this train.
Car, you're breaking the basic rules of how we operate on Amtrak.
Okay, and the question
Please
is,
stop.
And I believe we're breaking international law by supporting massacres of civilians.
Thanks for your opinion, Aaron. I'm going to get you off this train and deport you to Gaza, and I'm going to send a special JDAM your way, Aaron.
Yes.
You've had a lot of my time. Please move on.
Why?
Move on where? This is his seat. If you want to move on, you move on.
Why not at least call for a ceasefire?
So anyways, Aaron got kicked off the train.
I've just been removed from an Amtrak train going to Washington, D.C. after I questioned Democratic Senator Chris Coons about his support for the Israeli mass murder campaign in Gaza and his refusal to call for a ceasefire. After I questioned him, he left his seat, then he came back, and then he asked that I be removed. And so a Amtrak staffer came over and told me to change seats or else I'd be thrown off the train. And in Senator Coons' defense, this was the quiet car, and so I did violate the norms of the quiet car by questioning him about his stance. But I felt this was important because we're talking about a massacre in Gaza.
I agree. Salute to Aaron Mate. We salute you, sir. On that note, everybody, I'm out for tonight. Thank you so much for tuning in to The Dive. I look forward to seeing you back here next time. God bless all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you'd like to support my work, you can do so, as always, by subscribing to my X Premium using the subscribe button on my X profile. We've been banned YouTube, Twitch, PayPal, Venmo, WhatsApp, all these platforms. So they're trying to cancel our show. They want to take us down. The only way we're going to stay here, continue fighting, is if you support our work. So thank you so much, everyone who supports us on X. You can also subscribe to my work on Locals. If you're on Rumble right now, just click that join button right there. It's going to take you to our Locals page where you can donate monthly, annually, or one time for any amount of your choosing. I'll see you all next time, everybody. Peace out. Have a great rest of your night. And thank you for tuning in.
Hamas and Putin represent different threats, but they share this in common. They both want to completely annihilate a neighboring democracy, completely annihilate it. Hamas' stated purpose for existing is the destruction of the state of Israel and the murder of Jewish people.
They murdered and raped civilians, they executed the elderly at bus stops, and they massacred young people at a festival. They may, it emerged last night, have even beheaded babies.
They found decapitated babies and toddlers.
Israel kills enough of these sons of bitches that this is not a problem again. Whenever anyone suggests that Israel is willfully killing civilians, that is the most ignorant, bigoted, anti-Semitic bull ever said. There cannot be a ceasefire. Anyone who calls for a ceasefire is a terrorist sympathizer under these circumstances.
I never really thought that I would see and have confirmed pictures of terrorists beheading children. I never thought I'd ever... Anyway,
Do you care about the babies that were beheaded? The babies
They were never beheaded. That was a made-up story.
How do you
Not true. It's show me the pictures now.
So what about
Show me the pictures. You're a lying full of. You're full of.
They bombed hospitals, schools, United Nations facilities, Red Crescent facilities, mosques, churches, civilian homes, evacuee convoys. They're literally bombing everything but Hamas inside of Gaza. And that's because their real effort is to force the Palestinian people out of Gaza and take over that land once and for all. Zelensky is using the Nazi Azov thugs in Ukraine to silence freedom-loving Ukrainians. Joe Biden in the United States, his cronies are prepping the CIA, the FBI, Antifa, the IRS, and now Ministry of Truth to attack freedom-loving Americans.
Demand not one more bullet, not one more tank, not one more piece of artillery, not one more dollar, not one more penny be sent to the Nazis in Ukraine. Demand peace. Thank you all for being here. Continue this energy.